the last.
All
All
right.
right.
Did just hit the record button, so we're starting now.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's, let's see, December 9th, Amherst Rec Commission. We are meeting, I think, for the first time since September. Thanks for your patience, everybody, and joining. We have quorum. I will need to drop off in about 15 minutes, or 10 minutes, but we'll still have quorum so we can get to our full agenda today. Our agenda will be to cover off on CPA proposals, on Plum Brook, an update on prior discussions relative to Cherry Hill and pickleball specifically, and then also a report of the chairs, which since I'll need to drop early, I will get to that in just a second. We will not be reviewing the September minutes. We'll get that at our next meeting. All right, so before we go over to CPA, report of the chair. So Jean, Ray, and I met last week just to sort of go over how kind of a general sort of state of where we are relative to Rec Commission. And the feedback that Jean and I shared with Ray is that we're eager to see some more tangible progress on projects, pickleball and Cherry Hill specifically. These are ones that have been, certainly Cherry Hill has been one that we've discussed on and off on this meeting for several times. And pickleball has come up as well. That was a major topic in our last discussion. We've had lots of conversation on these, and we've got some great ideas from members of the committee as well as members of the public. And we're eager to move forward on some of these things. I think pickleball is kind of an obvious one because of some money we have allocated from CPA. I won't pretend to pass off that I understand how things work in terms of prioritization within the town, and so I don't mean to oversimplify that. I know Dave and Amy and Ray can help shed some light on where we stand on some of those topics, but it is something that both Jean and I are very interested in. We've got members of this committee. I know Chris specifically, who you've been a very strong advocate for working towards Cherry Hill, or being part of kind of a Cherry Hill task force. Sanjay has also been interested in being part of a Cherry Hill task force. I understand there may be some conversations that have happened outside of this committee. Would just like to make sure that we are a part of that. Jean and I will put together a letter, we'll send it off. Dave will send it to you as well as to Paul and Ray, just indicating that we're very eager to help. We've got not only some ideas, but we also have some time. Chris, again, I'm thinking of you specifically volunteering to help on that task force, and we're eager to get some things done. And I know it's easy to say from this side of the table, but hopefully we can find a path forward that allows us to leverage the resource, at least that we have at this table, to make some progress. So it's an open-ended. I don't expect a conversation at this point, but I will, again, I'll put some thoughts down in writing and flip them over just to have them memorialized. All right. Okay, let's also, before we get started, we do have a couple of attendees. Let's start with some public comments. So if the folks who are attendees, if you have a comment that is unrelated to CPA proposals, Plum Brook, Cherry Hill, and pickleball, if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand and we'll recognize you. And if you have a comment relative to any of those, just wait during that part of the discussion and we'll ask for your input. Okay, I don't see anything. So on that note, Ray, Amy, and presumably Matt as well, could we move to our first topic, which is CPA proposals?
Sure.
Yeah, I see. Whoever would like to run this.
Ray, I didn't know if you wanted me to jump in or if you want to give a general overview first, or.
I will say that because they're in our rec offerings, none of them were generated by me. I don't have nearly as much of the understanding of what they are. There's some specifics in there that we mentioned at our last meeting in September. We talked about them in the last September meeting about what we were looking at. Amy is definitely because she's been the one that's been pushing through those. It's the first time since I've been here, there haven't been any of the sort of exciting big ticket ones from my department. But I would like to let Amy sort of share where we are on those other ones.
Great.
So before we start, like, I'm a little confused why we're having this discussion now, because the town of Amherst has already presented these proposals to the CPA committee, and the CPA committee's deliberations are going to begin next week. So I'm not sure what is the purpose of this discussion.
Do we have an inventory of what all of those? So we last met in September. At that
Yeah,
point,
so ideally what would have happened is the town would have written the proposals and then presented them to the recreation committee in October.
And we did not meet in October, and it sounds like Ray didn't. Well, we haven't met in October, so we don't have, this commission doesn't have any sense from this forum as to what proposals were being submitted under open space and recreation. So at this point, because this may just be
this is more just for information for the Recreation Commission, because at this point there's not much. Well, I guess I can bring any comments from the Recreation Commission into the deliberations, which is going to begin next week.
Yeah,
but,
I mean that still sounds good, right? I mean that's
okay.
not too dissimilar to how we normally do it, right?
Well, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Well, on that note, then does someone have the ability to share a list of what projects are being proposed through open space and rec?
Sure. Yeah.
Dave, yes, would you like to speak up, please?
Sure, yeah, I was just gonna throw out there, not to lengthen your meeting, but I had said to Ray, if the commission wanted a quick update on the track and field project, that's kind of why I was here tonight. But again, I don't wanna, kind of mess up your agenda. It is a CPA related project, but happy to give an update if the commission would like an update on the track and field.
I think that would be great, Dave. Thank you for offering.
Maybe while Matt looks for those other ones, I can be very brief. So really, I think all good news. I hope you've been following the progress in the newspaper and online. We've had a whole host of meetings from the planning board to the conservation commission to the town council. Where we are right now is I'm very excited to say we have a project. We have a project at $4.47 million. All of this information is available online in the town council packet or the finance committee packet. We will be before the finance committee tomorrow. You may recall that, months ago, we asked CPA to consider an $800,000 ask to CPA out of sequence. And the CPA committee recommended that $800,000 to the town council. And they were strongly encouraging our team to go to the other 3 communities in the region and ask for additional funding from Leverett, Pelham, and Shutesbury. The good news is we are two out of 3 we have secured. We have secured funding from Pelham. And last week I was at Shutesbury town meeting and we've secured funding from Shutesbury. Thursday night of this week, I will be at the Leverett CPA committee. They are not taking this up this fall. They'll take it up in the spring. But Pelham came in at 110,000. Shutesbury came in at 136, and we're asking 176 from Leverett. And those numbers were predetermined by the finance folks. So I don't know all the ins and outs of all those numbers, but it's basically a percentage of the project based on a regional equation for capital projects at the region. So bottom line is we are moving forward. We have a design which is moving forward rapidly. we have met with the school committee, the new superintendent, the AD, multiple members of the coaching staff at Amherst Regional, and we hope to have this out to bid in January. We feel like we have the funding sources necessary. We certainly are going to need Leverett's funding in the spring, but we have a project right now that we can put out to bid in January with the hope of being under construction right after the school year ends in June of 25. Let me see if there's anything else. So we'll be at the Finance Committee tomorrow. The Finance Committee makes a recommendation back to the Town Council. The Town Council will vote on this, I believe, next week on the $800,000. And that's really the big remaining vote that we need. And I have every confidence that, you know, we are there. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm happy to take quick questions. Let's see, is there anything else? We've been through Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Design Review Board, Disability Access, Disability, DAAC. Sorry, I'm a little slow tonight and I got a little tickle in my throat, but anyway, we've been through all the boards and committees. So we're getting there. So I feel pretty good about it.
That's great.
Happy
I've got a file with a layout from December 4th, which looks different from what was in sort of previous versions, the original Weston and Sampson layout. And I know we don't all have the data here, but the SLR plan from the 4th that has 2 parallel fields.
Correct. There will
Sorry.
There will be 2 fields. Will there be an 8-lane track with a grass field in the middle of that 8-lane track with another field to the west? So out of this project, we will get 2 exceptional fields out of this project for $4.47 million.
Okay, and the softball and baseball will stay up.
Yeah, this is only phase 1 of that Weston and Sampson plan. We're years away from any other phases of that.
Got it.
I think this is what's before us, and yeah, there's plenty of room for the softball field to be where Weston and Sampson put it in the southwestern corner of the regional schools land. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are. And if you're interested more, you can check out the Finance Committee packet, and then we'll be before the council, I believe, next Monday night for that final vote on the 800,000.
Fantastic.
Awesome. It's great.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the update. Any questions for Dave from the committee?
Nope.
No, that's great news.
Indeed. Any question? Let's see, participants. We've got 3 participants. Any questions for Dave?
I will add, just because it has come up and will continue to come up, there's still a very serious conversation that needs to happen about who will maintain and how we collectively will maintain these beautiful new fields. So that is a conversation that I'll be a part of, Amy will be a part of, Guilford, and the school system. So if we build it, we got to take care of it. So that's a conversation we have to have, and it's a pretty serious one. How do we do that?
Are the fields to be irrigated?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you, Dave, for that update. If there's no questions, Dave, you're welcome to stick around if you'd like. I need to drop. So, Jeremy, if you don't mind kind of running point, that'd be great.
Sure.
And yeah, between you guys, just let's work through the agenda, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Happy holidays, everybody.
See you, Andy.
Yeah, have a good holiday, Andy. Thank you for your time today. This is awesome. So I think that we're on to
Okay,
anything you found,
you want to
Matt,
hear
from
about
CPA?
all the CPA proposals that are under recreation? Well, there's quite a few of them. Going in the order that was given 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 6 proposals. Number 6, well, the first one is for conservation signs, and the second, I'll just list them and then we can go through them separately. The second one is for some electrical updates and some other updates to the Mill River baseball fields. The third is for additional money to fund the War Memorial Bathhouse. Then there's the usual proposal for trail and footbridges. There's another proposal to fund kind of a study for Groff Park to do with making Groff Park more accessible, specifically the shelter that's down near the river. And then lastly, there's a proposal for benches and tables and trash cans at various different parks. Okay, so do you want me to go through those one by one?
In general, I would say sure. We'd maybe do a brief overview. Makes sense. I
Okay.
don't want to take up too
Yeah.
much.
Recreation and conservation signs is for $100,000. Now, the town has already been working with a graphic designer to come up with kind of a scheme for the color scheme and the fonts and the look of these signs. There's some signs already in downtown Amherst and in some of the newer parks, I think. But this is $100,000 to sort of go through, complete the design, but also to manufacture and install signs around town so there's a whole plan for larger signs at more places like Plum Brook, and then smaller signs at conservation areas.
Sorry, that was me. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Is that enough on that one?
Yeah.
Any questions about that? No?
Nope.
I have maybe I should uncover Zoom so I've got two screens, but I got too many things going on. So Mill River baseball fields, electrical and dugouts, that's $120,000. And so there's been some dugouts have been installed, but this is for shade structures and new seating at the dugouts, and then it's also for
Do you want me to just talk about it quickly, Matt?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's
I can't remember how the 120,000 breaks down into the two
it's
dugouts
fine.
and the
Yeah, I figured I'd save you from multi-screen everything. So it's
Right.
like you said, it was dugouts. So one of the fields has the dugouts with the shade structures, and so it's just doing that on the other field. And then it's also bringing electrical out there so that they can say plug in the scoreboard and the PA system and that sort of thing. And if you recall, there was actually a proposal, I think, many years ago that had a portion of this as part of it, and the electrical portion didn't happen. And so it's rolling that in, but also bringing both fields up to having those dugouts. So.
And if I could add, Matt, just one clarifying thing. I have been in touch with the new president of Amherst Baseball, Nick, and also Sanjay as the former president of Amherst Baseball. And between now and Thursday, Matt, you referenced, I believe the CPA meeting is this Thursday, the 12th.
Right.
There may be, the town may, in collaboration with Amherst Baseball, we may reduce this ask.
Okay.
There's really some question as to whether the dugouts are needed on Mill River 1, and maybe we should save
Okay.
that for a future year. So we may reduce
Okay.
it just down to the electrical. So just so the commission knows that. So we'll.
Yeah. The
That's
commission got an email from Sanjay about
Yeah.
rethinking part of this.
Yeah, so that's on my plate for this week, and I have a
Right.
feeling CPA will get an email from me tomorrow reducing that ask.
Okay.
War Memorial Bathhouse, I think, is the next one.
War Memorial Bathhouse, yes. So So this has been something that we have discussed before in the Recreation Commission, and last year, actually the 2 previous years, the CPA has approved money first for a preliminary design, and then secondly for funds to support the construction. And then this is an additional ask because the cost of it came in substantially higher than we initially anticipated. So this is an additional 750,000 to go toward the construction and to match state and federal grants. So correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, but I think we approved 750 for the construction last year. And
Correct,
so this would be an additional 750,000.
correct.
Any questions about that? Okay. The Groff Park accessibility is $100,000 for a kind of a survey, like a detailed, surveying survey of Groff Park, as well as to investigate what to do about making an accessible path from the street to the playground and everything, and also down to the making the pavilion down near the river accessible, and how's that's going to work. Any comments about that? Anything you want to add, Amy?
I mean, those are the general overviews. Partly a couple of years ago, we actually had some funds to improve that lower pavilion. But we need, it needs to be ADA accessible. And that was the missing component to be able to improve that. And so we need to look at a survey, wetland delineation, obviously we're right next to the stream there. And so it's those both, and then the design, which our engineering staff will take all of the survey, the delineation, all of that information, and then they're gonna complete the design. So at the end of this kind of CPA round, we should have something that is ready to, go to the next stage of, bidding and construction. So I do want to put that out there, that it's not just kind of the study part, that our engineering staff are going to come in and do the other half, so that it's, at the point of hopefully being constructed in the next year. So.
Not just earmarked for consultants. It's part of it's going to kind of fund your work.
Not fund our work. I'm saying that's kind of matching time on our side. So the 100,000 is a survey of all of Groff, wetland delineation. I'm forgetting, there are a few other things in that, but basically doing all of the due diligence on the site. And the reason we need to look at the whole site and not just, potentially the project area is just we're so close to the river that we're going to have to be looking at probably other parts on that site to be able to do, wetland kind of offsetting mitigation sort of things if we're working right next to the river. And so understanding other places where we can do that on the site is going to be valuable.
And it may not take, I'll just add, it may not take $100,000.
It may not take that, yeah. But
we don't spend what we
Right.
don't need, so that never leaves the CPA coffer if we don't need it.
I'll just speak as a transplant from Boston to Amherst 9 years ago. Sometimes when I read, we've hired a Boston consultant, and to me it just seems like the sticker price just goes through the roof, and I'm just wondering, I wonder if there's a motivation to keep that money in Western Mass. Look locally for these consultants, because I went over and looked at the site, and I have no idea what's involved. But to me, I think when I first heard it on this meeting, I think some other people shared the same kind of reaction, like, "Wow, 100,000 for a survey." But and I always think, "Oh, that's Boston money." Those are Boston prices, or those Western Mass prices. So that's
I'll jump in. I mean, Amy I'm sure we're right together on this. These are Western Mass prices. We infuse a lot of money into the local economy, hiring local surveyors, local wetlands people, local engineering firms, local construction firms. I mean, even the North Common, for instance, North Common and the work on Belchertown Road were both, some millions of dollars right into the local economy. So
Taylor Davis.
On
Yeah.
some of the larger projects, yes, on building projects, new schools, new libraries, things of that sort, but again, it's all have to go through public bidding process as well. We can't select, consultant X for $45,000 and just handpick who we want. But a lot of times we're ending up with, not ending up, we're with firms that are local. So I don't know. Amy does a lot of that. So you want to add anything, Amy?
All I was gonna say is like, that's not just the survey crew. You have to bring in like Dave said, a wetland scientist to do the delineation, and they have to put out the flagging, and that happens before the surveyor comes in. And so there's a couple of people, so that's not just the surveyor to come out. It's kind of to do all the due diligence. And so it's a couple of different experts coming out and, looking at the whole site. So, and this is kind of, it's almost rolling two projects into one, because we want to go from mill to kind of that recreation area that we have, like from the road there, bring it in, and then from there down. And so at one point that was kind of two separate projects, and we decided to kind of roll it up. They're at the same place, so kind of roll them all into one. So
And again, if it's 55,000, 60,000, we just leave the rest in CPA coffers, and that gets reallocated the next year. But we don't want to come back. That's the thing, is we don't want to have to come back in another year, because there is only one round each year. So then you have to come back and say, oh, we didn't have enough money. But the hope is it doesn't cost us the full 100. I'm really excited about this. I mean, the idea that we can get people safely and accessibly down to that lower level. I mean, wow, that's transformative. And Amy
Who hasn't
Ray,
rolled their ankle going down that hill?
yeah, Amy Ray and I have all dealt with people who wanted to get down to family gatherings, birthday parties, graduations, weddings, even down at that lower level, and they have to be carried down. And it's it's a little embarrassing, and not something that should happen in 2024, but it's exciting. So
Thanks for the context.
Okay. I skipped over
Trail and
Number 9, the
footbridges.
trail and footbridges. I'm sorry. So this is a request that I've seen the last few years. I think 2 years ago, the CPA granted $100,000. Last year, the request was 100, and I think we ended up granting 86. And this year, the request is 150,000. This is just a general thing. Dave can speak more, but there's something like 100 miles of trails in town. There's numerous footbridges, and some of those bridges are over substantial streams, like the Fort River, and those have to be built to a pretty high standard, and quite expensive. So anything else you want to add, Dave?
yeah, just again, we recalibrated recently, and we came up with 140 miles of trails in Amherst, which is a
Okay.
number I was even surprised by. But yeah, I think Matt nailed it. This is passive recreation. That's why it's under the recreation category. And the other thing is that funding this under recreation, not to go into great detail, but the CPA legislation was rather limiting. So if you can do this under conservation or recreation, they're both under open space. If you do it under recreation, it allows you to use that money on any trail on any conservation land in Amherst. If you do it under conservation, you can only use that money on land that was purchased with CPA dollars. So a lot of our land was purchased pre-2003, which is when the Amherst adopted the CPA. So an example would be,
Or donated.
or donated, yes. So an example would be Puffer's Pond. If you did it under conservation, you can't use CPA dollars technically on Puffer's Pond, anything on the trails around Puffer's Pond. So anyway, this is a good project. Hickory Ridge is a great example of where this money will come in handy, and we're poised to at least open about a mile of those trails in June of 25. So you'll see fully accessible trails with benches and kiosks, and all meet the ADA standards for people in wheelchairs, walkers, and you can even bike on the trails.
Were Sanjay here, he would say that having traveled the world, that we have a trail system that rivals almost anywhere else on Earth. And so for us to have, you know, that kind of amenity here in our town, it makes sense to invest in it.
Yeah, and CPA is one of the major sources of funding for that maintenance. I mean, they do get grants from the state and some donations from individuals and especially from some trusts. But this is a significant amount of their funding for maintaining the trails. Okay, and then the parks equipment request is for $90,000 to install. There's a laundry list of what's on the list. The largest amount of it is 12 picnic tables, 6 at Groff Park, 3 at Mill River, 3 at Kendrick Park, 3 cafe tables on the town common, South Common, and then there's park benches at Mill River, 2 park benches, and then planters, grills, trash cans, and numerous trash cans around town. And the total quote for that is $90,000. So this is to basically remove some very old, rotted out, or, you know, semi-functional equipment and put in some new durable equipment.
If I can add, I mean, this is like, we can all admit, this is like the least sexy project ever, right? It just is. It's not as exciting as a lot of the other ones, but we spend a lot of time to put the parks there, and that's great. A lot of people are using them, but we're finding that at Mill River, all of the picnic tables are being used. We need 1 or 2 more. We need another bench or 2 because all of these places are actually being used so heavily. And some of it means that the equipment is nearing the end of its life, but some of it also means that we need to have a couple of more benches and tables at some of these places because people are using our facilities pretty heavily at this point. And so that's really what it is just kind of, you know, making sure that there's a space for people to be able to sit and to eat and to enjoy all of our parks. So, and this kind of benefits numerous parks, like Matt said, numerous parks throughout the town, different things based on the spaces and who's using it and what the needs might be.
Awesome. I think that would wrap CPA and move us into Plumbrook pickleball. Ray, does that sound right to you?
Plumbrook.
As the agenda goes?
Plumbrook, not pickle.
Okay.
Plumbrook.
Okay. I can make this quick. AYSA has reached out to try and develop a storage shed. They want to place a storage shed on the north end of Plumbrook, and they reached out to me. They reached out to Town Hall. They reached out to DPW. They have worked to try and make it's a need for them with the amount of time and energy they put in that field over there. It's a storage need for them, which I certainly am okay with. And they've gone through some of the permitting processes. We're in the process right now of moving that forward. I said that I would let you all know that because it is development on one of our spaces here. If there are any questions about that, you certainly can raise it here or reach out to me. But if there are any questions about that, feel free to ask.
Who's funding that?
What are they storing out there?
It's an equipment shed. It's a 10 by 16 shed.
I think it's like some of it is like the nets during the off season, and then some of the other equipment, the stuff that they use for the drills and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And so this is something especially at the end of the year, normally they have to clear everything off. And the last several years, they've been getting someone with a truck and finding, a friend with a trailer so they can throw everything on the trailer and then finding a place to store it in the winter. And so this really just kind of is for an ease of operation so it can just stay there in the winter.
We have things, we've long had things like it at Groff. Of course, we store a lot of football and lacrosse equipment over in what's become storage space over at Groff. We have storage space available in other places also. Everybody's at a premium looking for storage, of course. Baseball has been in the works for trying to develop storage space in the spaces that they use. And most recently, they put a nice little storage shed over at the middle school. And so there is a need for storage for a variety of different reasons at all of our parks, and Plum Brook, of course, is naked.
So who would be funding the shed?
They are.
They're purchasing a shed.
They're
Okay.
purchasing a shed.
Yeah.
They're going through all the permitting process, but obviously
Okay.
just need the okay by various town bodies, this being one of them, to, just.
So they were thinking of maybe putting it in the northwest corner or the northeast
Yes.
corner, northwest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. As someone who had the responsibility for equipment for AYSA for several years, I can totally understand the request.
I can too. I mean, I'm kind of surprised I haven't heard it before. I know they've been talking about, every time we talk about moving equipment, sometimes stuff gets lost in the fields. We found that out at Fort River when we were cleaning up, when they were cleaning up for the sort of getting rid of the space in the fields. There was a lot of stuff that had just been abandoned. This makes order a little bit easier.
Great.
And so I share that as information for you all. If you have any concerns, you can certainly reach out.
Right. So we on to Cherry Hill.
Yes, I can say that we are. The plan is still, the working group is still a focus for us. It's still something that is it's a conversation that I have every time that I meet with the town manager. It's something that we have been planning and arranging. Dave and I are right now really involved in the process of trying to basically wordsmith the charge here to make sure that we're on a line. It's not that it's reduced in its importance and its impact. It has become a little bit less of a emergency for us as other things have stepped up, both inside my own department and also in the town. But it is a primary concern for us as we look at the beginning of our off season. We're not in a phase right now where we're behind, but we're anticipating that working group will be put together at some point in the very near future.
So
Okay.
by it's less of an emergency, you mean the town is not clamoring so hard to shut it down or to find a long-term solution. They're not in so much of a hurry.
I have not. It's kind of a weird situation for me because I won't say never. It feels like an emergency that isn't an emergency because there are existential questions about it. I have not gotten an immediate sense that we are trying to shut Cherry Hill down. I've tried to share that as I've been defensive of it, and I've been trying to present its value for us. It's more to just think about what the future of the course is. I've never had to defend the shutdown question. It's not been part of my conversations that if you don't, then this will happen. It's not. Cherry Hill is not under direct threat of being shut down. Certainly not for next year. Certainly not. I think there are existential questions that this working group is going towards answering.
Yeah, maybe I could jump in there, right? So to Matt's question, the town is not clamoring to shut down Cherry Hill. I've been with the town for a couple of decades. I don't think anyone's been, moving actively in that direction. I think that, as Ray has said, the purpose of this group would be to look comprehensively at the history of Cherry Hill, the golf course and the property, all of the things that Cherry Hill has to offer, the land, the buildings, to look at the history, to look at the current state of affairs, the state of the budgets, the staffing, the infrastructure, and look toward the future and say, with a group of people who represents a broad range of interests, like golf, like Nordic, like other activities, like the North Amherst folks who love and adore all the things that Cherry Hill is, pull that group together and say, kind of look ahead and say, in our crystal ball, what are some of the opportunities at Cherry Hill, both the golf operation, but also the land resource, but also honestly look at some of the challenges ahead and say, what do the capital needs look like 5 years out, 10 years out? And frankly, we're doing this across the board. I mean, if you read anything about Amherst right now, we are looking very hard at capital. We got the 4 capital projects, and then we have another, pick a number. Amy, Ray, and I are in meetings all the time, and we just rattled through 6 or 8 small, relatively small projects, and 2 big ones: the track and field, and the project that Amy has been spearheading for the new bathhouse. And that only includes the bathhouse project, only includes the bathhouse proper. It doesn't include the area around it. So it's in the context of capital needs, looking forward, and that's what this group will be all about. So there is no threat to Cherry Hill continuing. It is going to continue. And I think Paul's goal is to launch this group, I hope, in January. And I know 2 members of this commission have expressed needs, interest in being on that. I think
Interest.
it was Chris and Sanjay, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Yes.
Correct.
So I think that is a given. And we need to round it out with other people that Paul selects to bring together. So that's the purpose of this group. So happy to take any questions. And
No,
January, frankly,
you answered more tonight than we've gotten in a long time, so you're good. I appreciate it.
January, February is a great time to kind of launch this.
Mhm.
And again, it's not related to the golf season. I believe Ray had I don't know the numbers on Cherry Hill, but I believe it was a pretty successful golf year this year for revenue. So it's not revenue. This is not being driven by revenue or an emergency on revenue. It's more looking ahead, saying, what does this resource mean to the town of Amherst? Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Chris, anything else?
I'm good. That was great.
No? Good. Jonas, anything? No? Good. Matt?
No, I'm good.
No? So I guess we are moving on to the last item. Is that right?
Yes. And so that is update on pickleball. That was put on here particularly because the question has come to me from the community a little bit. Where are we? It's the question. Where are we? That's on here. It's been a conversation that we've been having, of course, for quite some time. It was part of my conversation with the co-chairs to look at this agenda, and so I guess the first point that we have there is that we are still looking for space. We are still looking. We're still in the process of looking for the end site for what CPA was kind enough to give us the go ahead for 2 years ago. It's been a complicated effort on our parts because of all of the challenges that we've talked about here before, about neighborhood, about cost, about what we can, about opportunity costs in terms of placing it. There have been some ideas and proposals brought forward, which have been, I haven't seen a proposal or an idea talking about why don't we site it here and move this to here. There are questions about flexibility that we, myself, Amy, DPW's engineers, that we've been looking at very carefully since the beginning of the task here. And so right now, we don't have a site. One of the questions is whether or not, why pickleball wasn't part of the CPA. The interest in pickleball is still there, and we've been trying in the meantime to program within the department space for people to have access. But until we can figure out where we're going, it is going to be a challenge for us. There are still some there are some procedural possibilities that may be attached to some of the things that we're looking at right now in CPA and in our department. But we are right now, it's not something that we are actively putting into this round of proposals. That we intentionally did not put this in this round of proposals because we need to be able to get some information on it first.
And currently that's still happening at Mill River. People are still using Mill River tennis courts.
Yes. Right now, the weather has been, again, thank you to DPW for extending our season over there a little bit. It has been, close to, or it's been freezing or close to freezing here for a little bit, especially early.
Right.
And so I am constantly going out there to try and see if this is the time to bring it down. But we have extended the season there on the Mill River courts for pickleball. We do have Sandlot working at the middle school in space in the space that we can afford over there. We do have Sandlot working over in the middle school, and there's been some activity there. We're trying to share our opportunities with the community that's looking to try and use it, as well as directing people towards the opportunities in other places, either through rentals, memberships, or in other towns that do have committed courts and spaces that they were able to develop.
I'm not sure who's
Dave had his hand up. Dave had his hand up.
Could I jump in or?
Yeah.
I wondered, Ray, just because I'm not fully aware, could you be a little more specific? Like what's happening indoors? What opportunities? I didn't quite understand. I know there's some things happening at the middle school. What are those in terms of indoor pickleball? And then, up throughout the winter months. And then I did just want to follow up a little bit on the Mill River courts, because I believe we are going to resurface the tennis courts in 25. And, so maybe we talk about that next, since Amy and I are both here. But what's happening indoors? I don't understand the Sandlot stuff.
Great. Thank you. Specific questions. So Sandlot, we have, much like pickup, basketball or volleyball, which we've run in the middle schools before, in the middle school or the high school before. We've been running drop-in pickup Sandlot pickleball, essentially, on Sunday afternoons, on basically weekend afternoons. Sunday has been our particular time because we overlap it with other events that are going on inside the building. And so it's in the side gyms at the middle school. It is a small space. We have lined with nets, with recreation nets that come in, and so people can drop in and pay to play, essentially. And so that's done in the spirit of other Sandlot sports, like indoor Sandlot sports like volleyball and basketball.
And then Mill River, I know we have funds to redo the tennis courts at Mill River. And I believe the plan was to line the westernmost. It's currently being used. I don't know if both courts are being used. I haven't been down there in a while, but the idea was to line the westernmost tennis courts for pickleball, correct?
Correct. And so they will be what the great part of getting through the CPA spending process here on the tennis courts is that now we can go away from the awkward temporary lines, the makeshift lines that, again, thank you to DPW, was able to come out and put lines down for drop-in recreational pickleball play. That will be built into the design of the court. That will have pickleball.
What's the time frame for that, Amy? Obviously, it's too late now, but is there a timeline for that in the spring, summer of 25?
Yeah, I'm working with my staff to hopefully put together. It's one of those things that's going to have to get bid out because of the cost. But the tough thing anytime you try and surface is they have like weather windows, and so it's highly weather dependent, and so there's actually really narrow timeframes when you can do it. So we're hopeful in the spring, but then again we'll see when we can bid it out and what the availability is of the the few companies that do this work.
And then how many courts? I don't mean to put you all on the spot, but we haven't talked about this in a while. But how many courts would that be? I don't know the kind of the dimensions and how that translates.
It would be very similar to what the space arrangements that they have right now, which is for two pickleball courts.
It could potentially be, I mean, we have the 2 tennis courts. It could potentially be up to 4 pickleball courts if we wanted to paint them in the opposite direction. But I thought I kind of threw that out to this group and maybe hadn't heard an answer on that yet. So I think some of that is still, we as a group, we're going to talk about what we wanted to do in terms of what lines we wanted painted. The CPA funds that we have to do the work covers that. It was specific to tennis, and I think we didn't include the conversation on pickleball, so we do need to just figure out where the funding for that comes. So I think there's a little more due diligence on our end to kind of answer some of those questions.
I mean, for the commission's knowledge, I do know that we have not, as far as I know, we have not received any complaints about the noise there. I know the commission because I have a pretty good memory for conversations with committees and boards. I know 2 or 3 years ago when we brought up the idea of basically having shared courts down there, tennis, double lining everything from both tennis and pickleball. I think there was a pretty strong reaction from many members of the commission at the time that we didn't want to pit the 2 sports, if you will, against each other in a competitive way. I will say that the court to the west has been lined for pickleball for 2 courts for how long now? 2 seasons?
2 seasons,
And
2 years.
I'm not aware that we've received complaints from tennis players either, but maybe, again, we all live in kind of limited spheres, and maybe they just never rose to me. So anyway, I just put it out there that it's worked pretty well to date. Is there any reason we shouldn't proceed with that in 25 and line those courts, either 2 or 4 for 2 or 4 pickleball courts, and then we will continue on our path to try to find a permanent site for other courts in town. Just put it out there to the commission. And again, you don't need the answer tonight, but it's something to think about during the winter months before Amy gets her, as Amy gets everything together for the bid and contract for summer of 25.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I would think only about the expense part of it, and if it fits, if we can make it fit, we have money for it, I would absolutely. I mean,
So does this
people love it.
Does this approximate what we were hoping to achieve at Stanley Park before the and
Not exactly. The Stanley Street project is what my first comment about the Forever Home, about a dedicated pickleball site. That's what's on the table. That's what we're trying to find a solution to. That's what we are still committed to trying to find a solution for, because that's what was granted in CPA 2 years ago. What's at Mill is it's a return on, we're repainting the tennis courts there, and we're incorporating pickleball into that plan. We're instead of painting new tennis lines and resurfacing and painting new tennis lines there, and then drawing temporary pickleball lines out there. We are incorporating pickleball into the plans. We are looking to try and involve pickleball in the long-term plans on those courts. That's not the dedicated pickleball home.
Right, but would it be a temporary dedicated pickleball courts? Or are you talking they're hybrid courts that
They would
tennis
potentially
people-
be
Open to both.
a short term.
Yeah.
Everyone can play, hybrid or combo courts is really kind of our
Okay,
short term fix while we figure out the long term problem
Okay.
or long term solution, I guess.
I mean, sounds
Yeah, I would, yeah.
like progress to me.
I would just add that regardless of what we do on a permanent home or building pickleball courts, we're gonna have to come back to CPA. That initial 120,000, isn't gonna get us there. I don't know if, some months ago, Northampton announced, I can't remember, 4 or 6 new courts at one of their parks. And I think it was north of 600,000 plus or minus, I can't remember, but I read that headline with interest and said, that's what we're gonna be coming back to CPA in future years, wherever we decide to build, permanent, dedicated pickleball courts. And it's gonna be, hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not gonna be 120. So that's the reality that Amy and Ray and I have accepted, and it is what it is. So.
Reminds me of War Memorial. I remember him passionately saying, we come back and revisit this. It's going to ultimately be, and that's such as the way things move, right?
But in the short term, if we can get some,
Absolutely.
a restored, renovated, if you will, tennis pickleball surface at Mill River with, at least one of the tennis courts doubling as pickleball courts. And it's worked so far with the less formal lining that DPW did. Why not? If there isn't great opposition from the tennis community, then let's proceed.
Yeah, I mean, from me sitting here, I don't play tennis or pickleball, but I don't hear from tennis players complaining about their tennis courts disappearing. What I can hear complaining about is pickleball players saying we've been advocating for years for more pickleball. So from what I'm hearing personally in the recreation committee, I think it makes sense to put pickleball lines on both tennis courts until the tennis people start complaining, and then we can, somehow come up with a solution to share it.
I would second
That's
that
where I'm
motion,
sitting.
Matt.
Without any further information, if someone asked me to make an opinion right now, that's what I have to say.
I guess what I
I
would
would agree with that.
I would encourage Ray to kind of take that in and talk with Amy in January as to, and Ray could bring that back to you. If we're going to move in that direction, then, we might want to get something kind of formal, some kind of supportive vote from this commission for doing that. It might not be tonight because not all your members are here, but have a robust discussion on that in January before Amy puts out her bid for the lining. And have that discussion in full and take a vote and see if it's 2 or 4 courts there. And again, they can be shared. I mean, basketball courts double as, you go to the high school, you go to the middle school, they double as volleyball courts. They're now doubling as pickleball courts. They're just different lines. So.
Yeah. And if it comes to amount of money, if the amount of money you have isn't going to cover both sets of lines, then I don't know whether it's possible to take any money from the pickleball CPA grant, or whether we could
That bridge
reach
when
out
we
to the
come to it.
to the pickleball community to raise the money, depending
Matching
on how much it
funds
is.
or whatever. Yep.
Let's cross that bridge. We can kind of work on that as Amy gets some cost
Sure.
estimates.
Okay,
But I would
great.
kind of encourage you all after the holidays to set aside 30 minutes on one of your agendas and really talk this through and see if there's, any direction you can give staff.
We know where our co-chairs lie, right? Because Andy said it before we even started the call. So we know there's a passion for it and a desire. And so I agree with you completely, Dave. We need to put full commission attention through it for 30 minutes, talk through and then help support Amy any way we can. Because I think I would
And
agree with you completely, Matt, that's what I hear. I don't hear anybody from tennis saying anything. I don't know that I go 2 weeks without somebody saying, "What if we have pickleball courts?" So,
And again,
yeah.
we're talking about, I want to be clear, we're talking about a shared facility. We're not
Shared facility.
taking over, but also this would not lessen, in my mind, this would not lessen our search for a permanent site for additional courts. We know we have more demand for pickleball than anyone could have ever imagined. So we still are out there, and we still will keep moving on a permanent site that is going to take some hundreds of thousands of dollars to build somewhere else.
And you don't have any time frame on coming up with a recommendation on a site?
I think it's realistic for the next round of CPA funding for us to come forward with something.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
in September of 25.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Matt's gonna hold me to that too, I know.
Well, I'm going to put it in the minutes. I don't know if I'll remember, but it'll be in the minutes.
I guess I would just throw out, I encourage you guys, like Dave said, have this conversation at the next meeting, about all of that. Cause one of the things that I've heard very clear from at least Sanjay is advocating, let's not rob Peter to pay Paul. Like, let's make sure that we're not taking space
Always.
from one sports group for another sports group. And so I just want to make sure, I know that people that want to play pickleball, they're very organized. And so we're hearing a very organized front from them. And I just want to make sure that the people that play tennis, that their voice is heard. And certainly if everybody is coexisting in this space, and that's fine, that's great. I just don't want to lose the tennis player's voice in this conversation, because they might not be as organized about it. Because at the end of the day, certainly we want to make sure that everyone feels like they can do do the sports that they want. So, I encourage it, put it on the next agenda, and certainly, as we're putting together the spec, we can have some flexibility to go whichever way, people think is best.
Yeah, very well said. I couldn't agree more, Amy. Right.
All right.
Did the attendees want to make comments about pickleball? Jeremy?
I don't have any
do you have
comments
the
made.
ability? Do you have the ability, if you're chairing it, do you want to ask them and bring them in if they raise their hand?
That would be great. I don't have the capacity to bring attendees in, I don't think.
I can bring them in if they want to.
Yeah,
So
if there are
we
any
have a hand
attendees who would like
raised
to
from
enter, I would
Judy
absolutely
Poser.
welcome them.
There's
for
one
sure.
hand raised. I will bring in Judy.
And if there's a hand raised, please, Ray, let's hear them for sure.
Okay.
So Judy,
Poser.
I think I've
Judy Poser.
unmuted myself. Okay, can you hear me?
Correct. Yes.
We can hear
Yes,
you.
Judy.
I'm one of
Welcome.
those. Thank you. I'm heartened by what I just heard in the last 5 or 10 minutes. I'm a pickleball player, and I have played at Mill River, and many times both of the pickleball courts have been full, and it would be nice to have additional courts. I also see no reason, unless the tennis players object, to putting pickleball lines on both tennis courts so that we have 4. Tennis players can still play, so, and but pickleball players can't if we don't have lines. So I hope that's how it will play out next year when the courts get resurfaced, because I think the resurfaced courts will also bring more pickleball players. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Ray?
Anybody else have comments? No. I will say, just to follow up on that, and thank you, Judy. The one of the things with lining the tennis courts and sort of making it part of the design is that we can design it to be less confusing. Also, I think it is a added benefit. Temporary lines. The first year they were way too thick. The second year there's still some of them fade easier. It's not durable lining, and so you could go through the same things that turf or indoor facilities do and create color schemes or make it so that it's not as much of an intrusion on pickleball and tennis or tennis on pickleball, there won't be as much intrusion. So there is something to be said about moving to double permanent.
Matt, if I
That's
could just
awesome.
bring up one more thing, I think it would be incumbent upon Ray to kind of bring ideas. I'm a tennis player, but I'm not a pickleball player. But I have been to many pickleball courts, and I have watched the sign up, the putting your racket up and the board and all of that. But I think it would be kind of incumbent upon Amherst Rec to propose something. I know there's already something down there, but if we were to line all 4 courts, how is it that a tennis player arrives and what is their expectation that within a reasonable amount of time they could get court 1 or court 2? So not needed for tonight, but I think that has to be part of the administration of those courts. If the commission supports this and staff, follows a recommendation of sorts, how would it be administrated down there? And I just think that's something, because if I were a tennis player and said, wow, I can't even get in this lineup. How do I get in this lineup if people are just cycling through court after court, game after game? So I just put that out there, and that's something Ray can work on, whether it's 2 courts or 4. And I don't.
Yeah, making sure we know there's a process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. So
Ray, I don't know if we have anything else.
it looks like we've exhausted the agenda here.
So if
I'm
there's
sad.
no
I
other
do wanna-
additional public comment, I guess this would be my time to, as the acting, to move to conclusion of the meeting. Matt, thank you again for taking minutes. You're like a minute savior. I just like to say that. Matt Kane, minute savior. And thank you, Amy and Dave and Chris and Jonas and Matt and those people who attended, Judy and others who had attended as well too. And thank you, of course, Ray, as well. I guess I'd have to move to adjourn. So I need a second.
Before we second that, I put on that agenda at the bottom that the proposed meeting date for January is the 13th, is Monday the 13th.
Ooh, yes, perfect.
I
Thank
don't
you very
know
much.
that I say tentative just because I looked at my schedule. It was the easiest, most likely spot for me. I'm just a guest. I am a director guest for you all at your commission meeting, but I'm putting as a possibility that Monday.
Yeah, if that goes in minutes, Monday, January 13th, then Andy, co-chairs will see it and can respond in kind. So we can lock that meeting in for sure. And we'll add on the necessary things for discussion. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I guess I'll move to adjourn.
Jeremy, I see Judy Posar's hand is up. I don't know if it's stuck up or.
Happy to, if you want to, happy to ask her. That would be great.
Judy.
Hi, no, my hand was not stuck up from before. I put it up again. I just wanted to say I really appreciated David's comments about administering how it will all work once we have the courts at Mill River, how pickleball players will play versus tennis players. And I've been involved in so many different towns, pickleball development, and it just changes. As more people sign up, you have to change. I mean, I guess the key point is flexibility. Don't try to come up with a system that's rigid, and just allow people to have input, and it'll work out, but it'll be very organic.
I love that.
Just something, yeah, you need to consider. Okay.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Would you like to move and second?
All right. I'd like to move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you all so much again. And we'll see everybody in just a few weeks. Have a
Thank you,
great
everybody.
holiday.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Have a nice
Happy holidays all.
Holiday.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.